Welcome to Creations of Our World, the podcast where we dive deep into the making of everyday objects. I'm your host, Kelly. Today, we're looking at something that's an icon of American culture, the baseball. It seems so simple, but its construction is a precise science, and we have the perfect guest to walk us through it. Joining us is Sam, the production manager at one of the country's leading baseball factories. Sam, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Kelly. It's a pleasure. I never get tired of talking about how these things are made.
Before we get into the nitty-gritty of the ball itself, could you paint a picture for us of the factory floor? What's the atmosphere like? Is it noisy? Is there a particular smell?
That's a great question. It's a real symphony of organized activity. You've got the low hum of the climate control systems because temperature and humidity have to be perfect. Then you have the rhythmic whirring and clicking of the winding machines, which is probably the most dominant sound. And yes, there's a distinct smell, a combination of fresh leather, the rubber adhesive, and the oil we use for the machinery. It's the smell of baseballs being born, and I love it.
That's a wonderful description. Now, let's dive into the ball itself. What's at the absolute core of a baseball?
Right, so the center of it all is what we call the pill. It's a small sphere, about the size of a cherry, made of cork. But it's not just a simple piece of cork, it's actually a composite with 2 layers of rubber molded around it.
2 layers of rubber? Why that?
It's all about energy transfer. The first layer is a hard black rubber, and the second is a slightly softer red rubber. This combination gives the ball its bounce, or its coefficient of restitution, as we call it in the business.
Coefficient of restitution. Okay.
Exactly. It's a specification that's tightly controlled by the professional leagues. Every component, starting with this little pill, has to be perfect to ensure the final product flies off the bat consistently.
So from the very center, quality control is already a major factor.
Oh, absolutely. It's the most important part of the entire process. A tiny variation in the pill can lead to a completely different ball in the end.
That's fascinating. So what does that quality control process for the pill actually look like? Are we talking about people with calipers measuring every single one?
It's a mix of both, actually. We have high-speed cameras and laser micrometers that check the dimensions and roundness of every single pill as it comes off the molding line. But we also have human inspectors who pull random samples from each batch. They'll cut them open to check the internal structure, the bonding between the cork and the rubber layers, and perform bounce tests in a controlled environment. It's a blend of high-tech automation and experienced human oversight.
That's an incredible level of detail. So once the pill is perfected and has passed that rigorous inspection, what's next? You mentioned the winding process with wool yarn. Why is wool the material of choice?
That's an excellent question. Wool is the perfect material for a couple of key reasons. First, it has incredible memory and resilience. When the ball is hit, the wool fibers compress, but they spring right back into shape, which helps the ball maintain its perfect roundness hit after hit. Second, it's a very forgiving material. It helps to dissipate the energy of the impact, which protects the core and provides that classic baseball sound and feel. We've tested other materials, but nothing has the unique combination of durability and elasticity that wool does.
That makes sense. So the wool provides both resilience and cushioning. You mentioned 4 different types of yarn are used. Why the variation? Why not just use one type of wool?
It's all about building up the ball in carefully controlled stages. The first, coarse gray wool, is about building bulk and creating a solid foundation. The next layer, the white wool, is a bit finer and helps to create a more uniform shape. The third layer, the finer gray wool, continues that process, smoothing everything out and getting the ball closer to its final size and weight. Each layer has a specific job in creating the perfect sphere.
And the final layer, the poly-cotton blend, what's its purpose?
It's absolutely critical. That final layer acts as a perfect interface for the leather cover. Any tiny lump or unevenness from the wool yarn would translate to the surface of the ball. This would affect not only how the leather adheres, but also the ball's aerodynamics in flight. The polycotton blend ensures the surface is perfectly uniform before we apply the adhesive and the cover. Next comes the winding. This is where the ball really starts to take shape and gain most of its weight. We use massive, high-tension winding machines to wrap layers of wool yarn around the pill.
Wool yarn, like from a sweater?
Sort of, but much more specialized. There's actually 4 windings. The first is a coarse 4-ply gray wool yarn. We wind about 121 yards of that.
121 yards? That's longer than a football field.
It is, and that's just the first layer. Next comes 45 yards of a 3-ply white wool yarn, then another 53 yards of a finer 3-ply gray wool yarn. The final winding is a thin white polycotton blend, about 150 yards of it. That last layer is crucial for providing a smooth, clean surface for the leather cover to adhere to. The entire time, the machine is turning the ball randomly to ensure a perfectly spherical shape.
That is an incredible amount of yarn. So how do you ensure everything is right at this stage? Is there another quality check?
Yes, a very important one. After the final winding, the ball is essentially a hard yarn-covered sphere. We call it a center. At this point, it's weighed and measured. It has to meet very strict size and weight requirements before it can move on. If it's even slightly off, it's rejected.
And what happens to the rejected ones?
Well, for the professional league balls, they can't be used. They might be repurposed for lower-tier balls, like for batting practice or amateur leagues, but they will never become an official game ball. The consistency is everything.
That makes sense. You want every ball to behave the same way. Okay, so we have this perfectly wound center. Now for the part we all recognize, the leather cover.
That's right. We use top-grade cowhide, which is inspected rigorously for any blemishes or imperfections. A machine cuts the leather into 2 identical figure 8 patterns. Each ball needs 2 of these pieces to cover it completely.
The classic figure 8. I've seen that pattern. How is it attached?
First, the yarn center gets a coat of a rubber-based adhesive. Then, an operator carefully places the 2 leather pieces onto the ball by hand, ensuring a tight fit with no gaps. They're pressed together, but what really holds it all together is the stitching.
The iconic red stitch. This is the part that always fascinated me. Is it really done by hand?
100%, and it has to be. No machine has ever been able to replicate the precision and tension of a human hand for this job. The balls are clamped into a vise, and skilled stitchers use a special red wax thread to sew the cover.
How many stitches are there?
Every official ball has exactly 108 double stitches. That means the needle passes through the leather 216 times. A good stitcher can finish a ball in about 10 to 15 minutes. The first and last stitches are hidden, completely beneath the leather, so the seam is flawless.
That's an incredible level of craftsmanship. It's amazing to think that this critical part of the process is still so reliant on human skill.
It really is. The tension on those stitches is critical. It affects the height of the seams, which in turn affects how a pitcher grips the ball and how it moves through the air. Too tight or too loose, and the ball won't perform correctly.
Right, for things like curveballs and sliders.
Exactly. The aerodynamics are hugely influenced by those red stitches, so the stitchers are true artisans and their consistency is checked constantly.
So after the final stitch is hidden, is the ball complete?
Almost. The stitching process can raise the seams a little bit, so the balls are placed in a rolling machine under pressure for about 15 seconds. This just slightly flattens the stitches to make them uniform with the leather surface.
Okay, just to smooth everything out?
Precisely. After that, they go through one final comprehensive quality-controlled inspection. An inspector checks the leather for any scuffs, the stitches for any flaws, and the overall shape and feel. Once it passes, it gets the official league logo and the commissioner's signature stamped on it.
And that's the ball we see on the field.
That's the one. From the cork pill to the final stamp, every single step is designed to create a product that is as close to perfect and as consistent as possible. When a pitcher throws a ball or a batter hits one, they need to know exactly how it's going to react. Our job is to eliminate any variable.
It's just fascinating. I think most people, myself included, just see a white ball with red seams and have no idea about the hundreds of yards of wool, the different layers of rubber, the hand stitching. It's a true piece of engineering.
That's a great way to put it. It's a perfect blend of high-tech machinery and traditional hands-on craftsmanship. We're incredibly proud of the work that goes into every single ball that leaves our factory.
Well, Sam, this has been incredibly insightful. You've completely changed the way I'll look at a baseball from now on. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us.
My pleasure, Kelly. Thanks again for having me.
That was Sam, production manager at a major baseball factory, giving us the inside story on America's favorite pastime. Join us next week on Creations of Our World, where we'll be exploring another amazing product created by mankind. You won't want to miss it. If you like the podcast, please remember to like and subscribe.